Hello and welcome. This is Pam. Today we're talking about, is it hormones or is it parasites? Many women are suffering with all kinds of symptoms that they feel are caused by hormones. They see their practitioner and their practitioner does some hormone testing and even just by the symptoms feels that they should be having hormone therapy. And so this is a mind-blowing topic because parasites cause all kinds of disruptions to our hormones. They can actually react to our hormones. They can produce hormones. They react to not just our sex hormones, but also the stress hormones. And if we take hormone therapy, when we have a parasitic problem, it actually will make the parasites worse. If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis over 35 years ago. By the grace of God, I have been able to live MS-free now for over 35 years. We have coached thousands of women and men all over the world, mostly women. And this is a common thing that I see because I'm dealing, or the students that I work with, they have a lot of parasites, they have a lot of chronic disease, and they have a lot of hormonal symptoms. And very often when they start working with me, their practitioner has put them on bioidentical hormones, synthetic hormones. Some women just have been using birth control pill for years, so they've been taking in extra hormones, and they don't realize that when we use hormone therapy, that if we do have parasites, it will actually make the parasitic problem much worse. And when you treat the parasites, then all of a sudden all these hormonal symptoms go away. It's so important to talk about this topic. There's a lot of adverse effects even when you're taking the natural or the more bioidentical hormones. And so we need to go deep into this topic. We need to share this with our practitioners because they don't know this. They really don't know this, which is bizarre to me. So why are we talking about this, hormones and parasites? Because many women are experiencing these different symptoms that fluctuate from different times of the month. And it can be anything from low libido, it could be fatigue, even infertility. So it's not just the mood swings and the cravings and the day sweats and the night sweats and all of those things, but this can even impact our fertility, which is so wild. And so when we have these symptoms, especially like the day sweats and the night sweats, doctors automatically think this is hormone. It's a hormonal imbalance, and nothing could be further from the truth. The vast majority of the time, it is a disruption to our microbiome, and when that is disrupted, then we have all these symptoms. So what's missing is this whole parasite connection, these hidden parasitic infections that drive our symptoms that appear to be a hormonal disruption. And again, as they're treated effectively, then all these symptoms go away. So there's a lot of science behind this. I didn't realize how much science is behind this. I see this in my students. When a student joins our program, I just tell them that, I'm not a doctor and I don't give medical advice, but if you are on bioidentical hormones, or you're on synthetic hormones, maybe you're on the birth control pill, you really need to research the adverse effects. And then I share also that, we're going to talk about some of these parasites, but they impact our hormones in so many different ways. And what we have observed in our students is that when you support the body with nutrition, lifestyle, you correct the microbiome, you treat these parasites, all these hormonal symptoms go away. And that is what we want. We want the greatest quality of life. We don't want to be taking any kind of a drug if we don't have to, right? Especially when that has adverse effects. And these hormones, when you take them, they do have adverse effects. We're going to talk about why. They're very, very powerful compounds that really impact the biochemistry in our body in many ways that our practitioners don't appreciate very well. So this is whether it's synthetic, bioidentical, or it could also even just be birth control. Like sometimes women are given birth control pills to regulate their menses. Sometimes it is used for, not getting pregnant, but there's various reasons, but they all impact our health. And this has been known for a long time in science, and unfortunately they don't talk a lot about it. Our practitioners don't talk enough about it also. Let's talk about some of the different parasites that are linked to hormone disruptions and hormone-like symptoms. The first one I want to talk about is babesia, and babesia is one of the vector-borne infections associated with Lyme disease. And so this is a really common one in multiple sclerosis and in other diseases. This is where we can get all kinds of symptoms, but some of them would include day sweats and night sweats. There's also trichinella, which is a roundworm. Okay, so babesia is a protozoa, and trichinella is a roundworm, and schistosoma is a blood fluke. So all three of these, and they're all different types of parasites, they can cause different symptoms like the night sweats, anemia, fatigue, menstrual irregularities, and those are often mistaken for menopausal or even adrenal problems. So it's not just like menstrual problems or like the sex steroid hormones, but it's also our adrenals and our thyroid. So it can affect those hormones also. Toxoplasma, that is a common protozoa. Sometimes we can get it from dirty kitty litter boxes, but other sources also. This type of protozoa can cause sleep disruption and mood swings, neurological shifts that overlap with hormonal imbalances. So it may be mistaken for a hormonal imbalance, this parasite. Tapeworms, they're more common than you realize. And so there's different tapeworm species that also have been shown in animal studies that they metabolize steroid hormones. And so the steroid hormones would be more like the cortisol, the stress hormones that we have. And then there are also sex hormones too. So the tapeworms have been shown in animal studies to use the steroid hormones and interfere with the host, like whatever it's infecting, the endocrine system, so the hormonal system. So it's interfering with it. Parasites are very sensitive to hormones in our body. We've seen this for a long time, and I've shared this in a book that I wrote years ago, Become a Wellness Champion. Back then, they already knew that, like our Stats Canada government website, they knew that when women took hormone therapy for 5 years or longer, they increased their risk significantly for inflammatory conditions like arthritis. And we know that arthritis is also an infectious disease. It's caused by some types of infections. It could be different ones, but for sure infections. So, but they're also saying now here that these parasites are sensitive to hormones in our body, especially the sex hormones. So estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol. So I'll just share with you experiences like what I have learned, for example, with estrogen and progesterone. So in the 2 weeks before our menses, then progesterone is higher. And that is like the pregnancy hormone. It's getting your body ready in case you want to have children. And so when progesterone is higher, then our blood sugar is higher. If you have parasites, they will love that, right? Because that's their favorite source of energy. So even if you're eating the same, your blood sugar will be higher, and the inflammatory immune response, like the fighting mechanism of the immune system, will be more suppressed. So these are things that are important if we are women and we're going to have babies. But if you have parasites, they will benefit from this. Really important to know. So that's why, like the 2 weeks before some of us have our periods, when the progesterone is building up, we get all of these terrible symptoms building up. We call it PMS. And that is literally the parasites are becoming more active. They've actually measured the blood in women, and they can pick up antibodies in women for candida. So candida will be more active, but also these protozoa and worms, they all will be more active because all of them love higher blood sugar levels. And the immune system is not going to be fighting them as much because it's a natural, the hormone is naturally suppressing. So we have to consider all these things that A hormone doesn't just make us male or female, but it changes the biochemistry in our body in very significant ways. So when we take synthetic or bioidentical, then we can change the biochemistry in our body in ways that I'm showing you here that it is actually benefiting the parasites. They can grow faster, they can produce more toxins, they cause more inflammation because the immune system has to deal with them more when they are being promoted. So that's really important to know. What I've also noticed with our students that are really, really sick and disabled is that when they're going through, like, if they get like a surge of stress, like something like stresses them out really bad, they can have a limb go like totally rigid really quickly, so like I've known for a long time that people that have a lot of parasites, that when they're under a lot of stress, then their symptoms can be worse and it can happen fairly quickly. So that's another thing, is that they really are sensitive to different, not just our sex hormones, but also our stress hormones. Multiple studies show that when they are exposed to these hormones, parasites, again, this is what I've observed, but I'm telling you right now, this is what I've found in the science, and I'll be sharing my blog post. Of course, I always do that on either Friday, hopefully Friday or Monday. But parasites can ramp up their growth, and they can also become more infective, more virulent, and also they can alter their reproductive cycles in the presence of hormones inside of our body. And us women, we're much more susceptible to all of this because we have the fluctuations of our hormones cyclical. And that is the wonderful thing, is that we can have babies and children and be a mother, but that changing of the hormones really impacts the parasites that are living inside of us. Some parasites, such as tapeworm species, so not just one type of tapeworm, but maybe some cousins, they can produce their own steroid-like hormones, so they're not exactly identical to the human steroid hormones, like the stress hormones, but very, very similar. And this can actually alter hormonal balance inside of us and also immune function. So it's the parasites responding to our hormones, but it's also parasites producing their own hormones, which is going to impact our physiology, which is wild. Doctors don't know this. Like, I've worked with thousands of people all over the world, and I've never had any kind of a student say, you know, my doctor had me on hormones, but he realized that, or, you know, he was more concerned about the parasites could be causing these symptoms. No, it's like, if you have hormonal symptoms, the doctors that are educated on hormonal therapy, they are going to put you on bioidentical or synthetic hormones, or even like the birth control pill. And they don't know that this makes matters worse. So this interplay between our hormones and parasites is like a two-way street. Parasites don't just react to our hormones, but their presence in our body can alter our hormone production, can also alter our immune function, and they can also create all of these symptoms that are getting worse over time that we feel are hormonal symptoms. And again, when you restore enough balance to your microbiome, and of course, you are optimizing nutrition, so nutritional deficiencies can cause all kinds of symptoms too. But if you're not nutritionally deficient and you're not dealing with parasites and you are living a fairly balanced, healthy, active life, you don't get these day sweats, night sweats, cravings, mood swings, fatigue. Like, all these things go away, which is crazy, without hormone therapy. That is the experience of our students that are recovering from not just hormonal disruptions, but they're recovering from a parasitic infestation that's causing a serious chronic disease. So parasites, they disrupt the gut, and that's where a lot of the hormones are metabolized, being used. And also, most of our immune system is around the intestinal area, like in our gut. So our immune system is there, a lot of the hormones are metabolized there, the parasites are living there. And so this leads to all kinds of issues like estrogen dominance and PMS, and even, again, thyroid and adrenal issues. So it's like, why is it that some of us, like, it's like we feel like we're dealing with adrenal fatigue. We feel like our adrenals like are just going off. And this is a big factor that has to be investigated by our practitioners. So the consequences, why does this matter so much for women? So women are biologically more susceptible to certain parasitic effects, and I believe even to the parasites benefiting in our bodies. And that's probably why there are certain, like I'm sure with MS, it's more like women have MS, and it's because of our hormones, because of the cyclical nature of our hormones. So many of these parasites produce these symptoms that are nearly identical to common hormonal issues. But again, like, were they ever really hormonal issues, or were they just misdiagnosed as being hormonal, right? Like, if we're living in a country where we do get enough nutrition, we don't have any nutritional deficiencies, then are these hormonal disruptions, like 99% of the time, are they really hormonal disruptions, or are they just parasites? So this topic is absolutely mind-blowing when you start digging and you see all of the research. Like, why hasn't anybody put these together? It's just insane. So hormone, it's really important to go over this again. Hormone-like symptoms that specific parasites can cause. So you have the day sweats and the night sweats. This is observed in babesia, which is that protozoa, and also trichinella, and they frequently are mistaken for menopause or adrenal disorders. Fatigue, weakness, poor exercise tolerance may result from chronic schistosoma or trichinella. So schistosoma is fluke and trichinella is little roundworms. Mood swings, anxiety, irritability, emotional instability can be triggered by toxoplasma, which is that protozoa, not always from kitty litter, but can be from cats, and other persistent infections. Sleep disturbances and insomnia linked a lot to toxoplasma, but many other parasites also. And gut parasites, so it shared other neurotropic and gut parasites. Many of them are linked to, that's a really common symptom of parasites, is that we have a hard time falling asleep. We wake up through the night very often. We might wake up at the 3 o'clock witching hour, and that's really when the parasites are quite active. So that's really common in not just toxoplasma, but many other types of parasites also. Irregular menstrual cycle. So the parasites can cause disruptions to our hormones, or cycle can be irregular, but they can also cause anemia. When we're deficient in iron, we tend to have much heavier menses. We bleed a lot more. We have a lot bigger clots, and then we become more anemic. So it's kind of a vicious cycle there. So this would include schistosoma infections. They create inflammation and anemia. There's a lot of other parasites too that cause anemia. That's a common symptom of parasites if we have anemia. Food cravings, blood sugar swings, digestive upset, trichinella, schistosoma, and many gut protozoa and worms. They all disrupt nutrient absorption. They're freeloaders. They steal nutrients from us, and they also use up the nutrients. Skin rashes, itching, and cyclical eruptions. So like the symptoms that we're dealing with are cyclical, and then we think it's hormonal. But yeah, it is cyclical with our hormones, but it just means the parasites are more active at those times of the month. And when you treat them, like I went through menopause and I was just like, oh, I guess I'm done. This whole menopause, like all the symptoms women are getting, if your microbiome is in balance enough and you're having enough nutrition, it's been our experience that women don't experience menopause symptoms. It's just like their menses just stop. Your periods just stop. You don't get all of the horrible other symptoms that people deal with, women deal with. This is such an important topic. I will be talking more about this in the future. So again, skin rashes, itching, these cyclical eruptions, like at certain times of the month, like why is it that I'm feeling so depressed or so anxious and I'm at this certain time of the month? Well, the parasites are really enjoying the higher blood sugar level and the suppressed immune function. So this is seen in flukes, roundworm infections, which are flaring, especially around just up to the menses. And then you'll notice that after your menses, after your periods, then the symptoms settle down a bit for a little while, and then they start to rev up again. Brain fog, memory problems, cognitive changes, they are seen in women infected with toxoplasma, but other chronic parasites too. Like the cognitive impairment, there's many parasites that cause this. So that sometimes is linked, like they're grouping that with hormonal disruption, but this is just common parasite symptoms like the brain fog, the cognitive impairment. And then also these symptoms can overlap or they can occur together. So underlying infections, they often go unrecognized because virtually any symptom can be caused by parasites. These are not symptoms that we should have. And so it's really important for practitioners to first focus on correcting the microbiome as much as possible. And probably the vast majority of the time, they're going to go, oh, you're absolutely fine. Infections that cause symptoms the infections, they cause symptoms that either mimic or they aggravate what we would cause menopause or perimenopause or postmenopause, adrenal dysfunction, thyroid issues, low thyroid, also hyperthyroidism, or like when the thyroid is more active. So all of these different impacts can happen because of the parasites. And there again, then we're going to hormonal therapy. So even with Hashimoto's, which is, I believe it's low thyroid, it's like called an autoimmune thyroid condition. And there's so many people that have restored balance to their microbiome and they have healed themselves of Hashimoto's and they have not had to stay on thyroid hormone. So it's really getting to the root cause, and that's what we do a lot in the Live Disease-Free plan, is helping people to get to the root cause. That way they get the greatest quality of life as they heal and recover. It's anti-aging. You go back to a time where you felt like your old self again, even better than your old self. So if we have undiagnosed parasitic infections and then we start hormone treatment, we could be promoting the problem, feeding the problem, making the problem worse. For example, I'll talk about some of the risks right away, so I won't jump to that right now, but we need to fix the problem. We need to address the root cause so that we don't have these symptoms and we don't have to take a drug that has significant adverse effects. So risks of hormone therapy. So hormone therapy may help to suppress some of the symptoms we're dealing with. And I say may because it doesn't always do that, but it may help to suppress some of the symptoms that are bothersome to us. But that comes with a big price. That comes with a lot of risk. And we need to talk about the risk. So both bioidentical, synthetic, and also birth control. So there's increased risk of breast, ovarian, and endometrial cancers, especially with long-term use or certain hormone combinations, increased risk of developing autoimmune conditions and inflammatory bowel diseases, and also, inflammatory diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. I should look up the inflammatory bowel disease. That's something that I would like to look into also. I wouldn't be surprised. These are kind of the most prevalent things that they see that would stand out more. Elevated chance of blood clot, so increased chance of blood clot, deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, heart attack and stroke, heightened risk of gallbladder disease. And gallbladder disease is literally like the parasites have moved into the gallbladder liver meridian. And when we're taking the hormones, we are changing the blood sugar, we're changing the immune response, we're actually promoting the infections. And so this can include more gallstones and other complications with gallbladder disease, also leading to possible adverse effects of vaginal bleeding, breast tenderness, mood swings, and mood changes, headaches, faster tumor growth. So if we have cancer and we're taking hormones, it can increase the growth of the tumors, weight gain, and then later on in life, the risk of dementia. That's another one. And what I have learned in the past is, taking hormones can increase the risk of things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, and of course, we talked about the inflammatory autoimmune conditions like lupus and arthritis. So these risks are well documented when we take hormones because they're very powerful compounds and they really change the biochemistry in our body in very significant ways. And so if a chronic parasitic infection, and I'm not saying it's one microbe, remember, whenever we talk, it's about the garden inside of us, the ecosystem inside of us is out of balance, and we have worms, and we have protozoa, and we have bad bacteria, and we have different types of weedy pests inside of us, and fungi, and we have to restore balance. The more balance we restore, the healthier we feel, the younger we feel, and that is really the key to recovering from these horrible hormone disruption. And it's really important too, because if we don't, then, and we stay on these hormones, then we are at risk of all these other conditions just to hopefully mask some of these symptoms. It's awful. Again, these risks are well documented. Research, if you're on bioidentical hormones, if you're taking synthetic hormones, or if you're taking the birth control pill, find out what product you're on, read up the insert, look at the adverse effects, and really consider, and then start to look at the symptoms of parasites and the state of your gut and things like that. And if you're like, wow, I actually do have symptoms of gut disruption and parasites, then treat the root cause and you won't have all those adverse effects. You won't have those long-term problems and the increased risk of different types of diseases. So what can we do? I just had my live Q&A call yesterday, and every week the wellness champions that I'm coaching that are in the course, it's just, for me, every week is mind-blowing. I never get tired of it. It's like Christmas every week when you hear people getting mobility back, getting their life back, getting on with their life, right? And then obviously these hormonal symptoms going away too. It is just like Christmas every week. But at least 2 or 3 of them this week were talking about how impressed that their doctors are with the work that we're doing with the diet, with their symptom improvements, with treating parasites, and how they want to find out more information. And that is so exciting because in this next year, we want to start offering this to practitioners, just really Cole's notes, doing like a little workshop where we share everything that we've learned with them so that they can run with it, so they don't have to have all these years of trial and error and learning. Like what I'm sharing with you today is so huge. It is so huge, right? Think of all these poor women that have they're dealing with all these parasites. They go to their doctor means well. They're trying to do their best with what they've been trained in. And they're like, oh, it's hormones. Well, we can give you this and this hormone. Sure, there's some adverse effects, but you're suffering. You're dealing with all these symptoms. But they don't realize that by taking these hormones, if they have parasites, they are actually making matters worse. And then their patient ends up with different types of chronic diseases, including cancer, in a few years. So it's so important that this gets out, this information gets out to practitioners and to people alike. So what we need to do is watch my masterclass training. I share all the steps that we take to recover from parasites. Number 1 is to stop feeding the parasites so much. They love carbohydrates and simple sugars. Decrease them significantly. You will notice that your hormonal symptoms really settle down because the parasites will not be as active. That's the number 1. And if they're making you crave sugar and carbs, don't give in. Every time you binge on sugar, think about what's going on in your gut and wherever they're living. Sometimes they're in the central nervous system, but when you're binging on sugar, they're binging on sugar, they are going to make you feel like death. So don't give in to that. Number one, follow the Live Disease-Free diet. You'll find the guidelines on our website, livediseasefree.com. Under research, there's a little cheat sheet. Some of the doctors are actually handing that out to their patients. There's ideas on what I eat for breakfast, lunch, and supper. There's holiday meal ideas. We're going into the holidays here pretty soon. So diet is number one. Make the parasites more quiet. Inflammation goes down. Symptoms start to subside. Even the hormonal symptoms will start to subside. Even the day sweats and night sweats, all the mood swings, the brain fog, all of that fatigue, it all starts to improve because you're not as toxic from the parasites just partying it up inside of you. The second step is to support the body. It is so critical not to just hammer on the parasites when you are having lots of parasites and they're super active and you have a lot of toxins. You want to make sure your detox pathways are open. You want to make sure that you're sleeping well at night, you're having daily bowel movements, and you are noticing significant symptom improvements by not feeding them as much. Then our students are getting energy tested to see which of the parasite drugs test well for them. Some of them do have tapeworms. Some of them do have flukes. That's very common, especially in chronic disease. A lot of people have them and we don't even talk about flukes. And then of course, these smaller protozoa, they're definitely very common, can be roundworms. So some of the roundworms, even the big Ascaris roundworms, can cause some of the hormonal symptoms. I just shared kind of the parasites that have been documented in science to be really linked with specific hormonal symptoms, but there are other ones also. So then we look to see, because we don't have good tests to see which parasites we have, the stool test, the DNA test, they might pick up 10% of what we're suffering with. So we use energy testing. We use 6 criteria. We look at the student's health history, the health history of their parents. We look at their symptoms, their diagnosis, their energy test results, and also what worms they're passing. So we can't see the protozoa and the bacteria and the fungi, but we can definitely see flukes, and we can see roundworms, and we can see tapeworms, and that is very helpful in building the treatment plan. So then the students, once they're energy tested and we've gone through that criteria, then there is no one parasite drug that will cure us, right? There's different parasite drugs will treat different types of parasites. So I know that there's certain practitioners that are really excited about fenbendazole and ivermectin right now, and that's great. It can be helpful for certain parasites. It can be helpful for certain parasites that treat or that cause cancer, but it will not treat all cancers. It will not treat all parasites. And a lot of the practitioners, they're excited and they mean well, but they're like, for example, with ivermectin, they're talking like, well, ivermectin, look at it. It changes things in the body, that it has like, it's a new purpose for it. And I'm like, well, it's a parasite drug. Maybe it's treating parasites. Well, it changes, like with cancer cells, like they have a much greater intake of glucose. But then could it be that cancer cells maybe are human cells that are infected with parasites, and as you treat those parasites, that cell doesn't take up sugar anymore? Like it's kind of funny. Like I know they mean well and they're learning and they're excited, but when albendazole treats certain cancers, fenbendazole treats different ones, ivermectin does, and many other parasite drugs, they're all different parasite drugs. Could it be that parasite drugs are treating parasites in cancer? Yeah, it totally can be. Why not look there first? It could be too simple, maybe. I don't know. I know I love science and I have a science degree, and sometimes we really complicate things. We overcomplicate, but they'll get the aha moment pretty soon here, I'm sure. So it is very, very important to be very careful with hormone therapy. So with respect to recovering again, diet, supporting the body, feeling a lot better before you start treating the parasites, then making a treatment plan that is tailored to what you're dealing with. And then you have to treat over multiple cycles. So if somebody is just not that sick, they might treat for 4 to 6 cycles. If somebody is really infested, been in a wheelchair for years, then they may end up treating for a year to a year and a half at this point. And we're using combinations of parasite drugs, herbs, and oxygen therapies. So we're using oxygen, herbs, and the parasite drugs. And you just taking like one parasite drug is not going to treat everything. It's not even going to treat one type of parasite. They're not that effective on their own. You can't just take one parasite drug that will get rid of all the flukes. They're very persistent in the body. Our students are passing hundreds of worms. And so when they do go through this process, because at the start I tell them, I say, well, you're on hormone therapy. Please research this. Please understand what the adverse effects are. In our experience, when women treat these parasites, what they thought were hormone symptoms are gone. And I also talk about the risks of hormone therapy. And so then they come off of it working with their doctor, working with their pharmacist. And then when they're done treating, they're like, I don't have any of those symptoms anymore. I guess it was all parasites. So it's pretty exciting. And we see this over and over again. So please be careful with hormone therapy. Again, these doctors, they mean well. They really feel like they're helping. They really want to decrease suffering in women. They just don't understand how it can be causing a greater problem in their patients in time. So with all of this, we have to first do no harm. That's what the doctors have vowed to, first do no harm. And so this information has to get out to them. And using integrative health, so again, building a healthy lifestyle, correcting our microbiome, treating the parasites, building back the good microbes, all of that, it just makes you feel a lot younger, that's for sure. And let's see, I'm going to go to your questions, see if you guys have any questions. So doctors live in a different world. Yeah, they do. Well, they've been trained in a different. It's been very strategic how they have been trained. They have not been trained in health. They've been trained in a very specific pharmaceutical model that uses a lot of immune suppression, immunosuppressive drugs. So that's another thing. It's like, oh, your immune system has gone haywire. Your hormonal system has gone haywire. We've got to control all these things. It's like, no, we have to support the body. We have to treat the root cause. That's a really great observation. Do they get blood tests to get verified data? So I don't know what blood tests they have done before they take our program. As far as, if their doctor, I don't know that they always do blood work for testing hormones. I think if they have a lot of symptoms of hormones, I feel that it's kind of like just giving them a safe dose to manage their symptoms. That's what they're doing. But in our students, like if they go off of that on their own with their doctor and then they treat the parasites, they don't have those symptoms anymore, the hormonal symptoms. So you're right, doctors in Canada, they will not prescribe, they can't prescribe any parasite drugs. I mean, if you have pinworms, they could prescribe, or they don't even have to prescribe. It's Combantrin, it's over the counter, but it's not very helpful for flukes and tapeworms and even a heavy roundworm infection. So countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, they are very tightly regulated. If doctors would dare treat parasites, they could run the risk of losing their license and who knows whatever else. Like they're trying to introduce different bills that would fine them, possibly take their license away for sure, but fine them and maybe even jail time if they're practicing the way that they're not supposed to. There's a lot of crazy things going on in Canada right now. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. All right. Hi, Leanne. How do you get more information on Carrie Rivera? You should be able to just find her, just look for her. She has a website, Carrie Rivera. I don't know if it's carrierivera.com. She's also on Rumble. So you can find her videos there. She might have her, because I know they have censored her tremendously. So you might not be able to find her website. I'm sure I have found it. I haven't looked recently, but again, look at Rumble. That's like a YouTube, an uncensored YouTube. Or no, it's not, it's Mike Adams. I can't remember what he has his own platform of videos also. You might find her on Rumble too. But Mike Adams has like a platform of media videos, and she used to have a show on there. She may still. She's an incredible person. And she's been helping a lot of children that have autism and different conditions and treating parasites, and they're dealing with a lot of other toxicity also. Yeah, so she's great, especially if you have kids that have issues. We both talk the same. It's just she's working more with children and I work more with adults, but we do have teenagers that work with us also. All right, so Tricia, once our dietary changes, so much healthier food, how can we know when the gut microbiome has changed too? That's a really important thing. So these parasites are not going to leave your body. You have to treat them just like you treat the parasites in your dogs, your cats, your horses, your cattle, your sheep. If you don't treat parasites inside of you, they just continue to live. Like you'll slow them down if you eat low carb all the time. Lots of leafy green vegetables, different types of low carb vegetables, moderate protein. If you eat too much animal protein, then it's converted to glucose, which will feed the parasites. So just moderate protein, lots of healthy fat, and the fat helps to keep your weight on, and low carb vegetables. You'll notice that you feel a lot better, but the minute you eat too many carbs, it's like putting gas on a fire and the parasites go, woo, that was awesome. So you have to treat them. You can, if you don't have any disease, you can try herbs. They will get rid of some worms and different microbes in your intestines, but if you have any kind of autoimmune condition or MS, we haven't found that the herbs on their own are effective enough to treat the parasites. So it seems like when you have MS, it tends to be more of a challenge to get your microbiome. Well, the thing is that with multiple sclerosis, our students are dealing with worms. So roundworms is very common. Tapeworms is common. Flukes are really common also. Like they don't all have, and that's the problem, is there's not one cookie cutter parasites that we're dealing with. We're dealing with different ones, but they can all cause neurological symptoms like an MS. There could be that there's one or two that are more like tailored to MS. That could be the malaria or babesia-like protozoa that I've talked about in past lectures that I did, where there's a lot of research showing that there's this protozoa that infects red blood cells that is causing the lesion formation in the brain. And that could be very characteristic of the lesions in MS, but there are lesions in many other conditions too. So that's the problem. Migraines, Crohn's disease, autism, people over 50 have lesions in their central nervous system. So this is the problem, is that with MS, Tricia, is that we have a greater parasitic infestation. It's actually moving all the way into our central nervous system, in our organs, in our eyes, in reproductive parts. So yes, it is more challenging. It takes more work, but it's totally doable. And the neat thing is, as you're treating them, you just feel better and better and better. And it's really exciting. People are having like reversals of disability that they did not know was possible. I never can promise anything, but what we're seeing is like people that haven't been able to walk, they're starting to stand. This has been for years. Some of our students, they can stand, and then in time they can kind of lean up against the counter. They can start doing some cooking. In time, they can start taking a few steps. They can wall walk. Some of them get back on their bike and they're doing squats in the doorways. And we thought that was all permanent damage to the myelin, but now we're seeing that a lot of it is just inflammation, and inflammation can heal. So, and then these poor people that have MS, women, they also have all these hormonal symptoms on top of it. And so when they're treating the parasites, then they're getting back their mobility. They're getting all these like drop foot and spasms and numbness and tingling. All of that stuff is going away. But the hormonal symptoms are going away also, which is so incredibly exciting. But yes, like with multiple sclerosis, ALS, PLS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, we are kind of at the end of the road with parasitic infestation. We're like really loaded with multiple different types of parasites in our body. And people that are just like autoimmune and they're not that sick, they're in the middle stage. And then people that are, you know, high energy, sleeping well at night, clear cognitive function, you know, at the prime of their life, they're just doing everything, having the stamina to do everything. They would be more in balance than people that have chronic autoimmune disease or people that have neurodegenerative diseases. Cancer is another one that is a parasitic infection. It's caused by infection also. And I've done talks about that. Lots of research on that. All right. So it is really important, if you don't want the hormone symptoms to get worse, you really have to treat the root cause, which usually is caused by parasites. Yes. Leanne, your pharmacy in the US, New Mexico, does not have praziquantel. So you can get it through doctors, so doctors can prescribe it. It's called biltricide sometimes too. So biltricide or praziquantel. Thank you for your kind words. Last question here, I'll just answer. Is it okay to take ibuprofen for inflammation? So sometimes we have to take medications short term to manage pain, but I would really encourage you to even just start the diet. Start the Live Disease-Free diet, because when you start that, you'll notice inflammation going down very quickly, and then people are able to stop taking these anti-inflammatory medications. So try to find the least disruptive or harmful anti-inflammatory that you can. There's natural things you can use that are anti-inflammatory. Maybe they're not strong enough for you right now, but if you change your diet, that's the first step. It can really decrease the inflammation significantly. And there's no side effect to that. It's all positive benefits. All right, so if this is the first time that you've met me and you're blown away by, you're like, Pam, I have been suffering with hormonal symptoms for years. I have been on different bioidentical hormones and I've been dealing with all these different symptoms you're talking about, conditions. I had no idea that parasites could be causing this. Please make sure to watch my masterclass training. It talks about all the steps we take to recover, what you need to do to recover. And then if you are looking for a practitioner and you can't find somebody that really gets this, that knows how to help you to recover from these parasites, make sure to reach out. You can always become a wellness champion. You can join the Live Disease-Free plan. And that's what I do, is I help students all over the world. And I'm the teacher, they're the student, I'm the coach teacher, they're the student, I'm not a practitioner. But this is such an important skill to learn, because when you learn how to treat the parasites, play an active role in your healthcare, then like it'll save you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a lot of people in the future, because you're the director of your health. You're playing an active role. You are respectfully and kindly directing different practitioners, giving them rationale so they know it's safe. But you have to learn this skill. You can't leave your health solely in the hands of any one healthcare professional. Your health is your greatest asset. If you lose your health, it is brutal. Like I've been there. All of our students have been there. And it's totally preventable. You don't have to be there, because now we have the tools. You've got a system. The Live Disease-Free system is a proven system. You can watch successes on YouTube, playlist, Live Disease-Free, or on our website, livediseasefree.com. Listen to the stories of the students that have taken our program. We're getting on to 10 years next year, 10 years of doing this. And there are students that if I'm not on Facebook much, but if I'm scrolling because I have to do something for social media, And then I see, Melissa, and she is working out and she's completely buffed and she's been MS free for 10 years. And then I see Sarah and she's working out too. And like these wellness champions, they've gone on with their life and they're writing books and they're coaching and they have wellness clinics, they have podcasts. And this is how we're bringing change, is one person at a time, helping them to recover and them getting fired up and making a difference in the world. So I want you to live your best life. I want you to not suffer with these horrible, horrible symptoms of what you think is hormonal. Please check into it and see if it is parasites. I'll bet it is. So if you enjoy the hard work that I do for research, all I'm asking you to do is to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel. It really helps these platforms to spread the word, because that's really what we're all about, is spreading the word to bring change. By the time I'm done, which I'm 64, so I would like to retire someday, I would really like all of this to be just mainstream. Just that doctors know this, they're helping their patients, and sure, we can help coach in the background, but all of this should technically be known by doctors. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful week. Keep adding your questions in. Our team will answer them, and we will talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye for now.